Howdy folks, welcome back to Moondockery. I found this nice little spot. I thought it might be good for what I'm going to do today. And I got, the camera set up. And then I realized that I had been recording this entire time and did not turn my microphone on. Let me tell you, it's been par for the course for the day. It's about 6:05 in the evening, and it's still right around 80 degrees. Very, very warm for this time of year. And what I'm going to do today is I am going to do an experiment for the first time. And I'm going to be using my rectangular Esbit cooker. And I started thinking about it, and as far as different types of fuel sources and stuff go, there's some potential there. And the reason I'm considering optional fuel sources is specifically because the solid fuel tabs create a very condensed focus of heat in one little spot. And if you're using two heat tabs, or you break one heat tab up and you move them around, well, you're making multiple hot spots. And I was just trying to think of a way to where you could create softer heat in a larger area so you don't have that hot spot, so you could actually cook with it. And the other thing is too, you got to throw this out there, is that solid fuel tabs are toxic. And you might not want those fumes getting in your food while you're cooking. So a non-toxic heat source would be pretty good. I considered the idea of an alcohol stove. Of course, the amount of space that's underneath there, I don't think it will work. I do have, I got to dig it out, a small Red Bull can alcohol stove, but it doesn't hold a whole lot of alcohol, so I would be constantly refilling it if I actually really wanted to cook. If I use twigs, well, that might work. That might work pretty good. However, the only air supply is up toward the top rim, and I've got those plastic feet on all four corners of the actual stove, and those would certainly heat up and melt. So what I've got in mind today, just to try it out, is some gelled fuel from Sterno. Very easily could replace that with the Fire Dragon liquid fuel as well. It's gelled, should work great. Got everything thought out, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and set things up, and we're going to get things started. We'll see you in a few. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this little gelled fuel stove that I made. It's basically just an Altoids tin, and I took the lid off the hinge area, and I took a handle off of a binder clip, a large binder clip, and I'm just going to put the binder clip handles inside the small holes that were there for the hinges. And now I have a nice little extinguishing mechanism for the gelled fuel. That's going to hold quite a bit of gelled fuel, and when I'm done with the heat, I'm just going to go ahead and put the lid on it, and it should be extinguished. All this stuff is just an idea that I'm trying out for the first time. It may work, it may not, but we're going to find out. Now the stove is all set up, everything's ready to go. We're just going to go ahead and put the makeshift stove in there. I'll put some Sterno gel in that. And I'm going to put quite a bit of it in there, because I can extinguish this and put it back in the container if I need to. But first thing I'm going to do is, after I light it and everything, of course, go ahead and get this lit. There we go, slowly but surely. Oh wow, didn't take much. One thing about these storm matches, you can't blow them out. Once they're going, they're going. But now I can. Is it right there? Well, that's going pretty good. That's producing quite a bit of heat, and it's over a much more wide area. Now what I'm going to do first of all is my usual cup of coffee is anywhere between 12 ounces and 16 ounces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and see how quickly this can boil 12 ounces of water with the lid on. And let's see, I'll go ahead and show you my watch. See, get her focused here. And I will bring it back just as soon as I see a boil and we can see exactly how long it took. Okay folks, it has come to a boil. Unfortunately, it boils very differently than your traditional cylinder style of stove. So I heard it make a noise, but normally like the small cylinder stoves, you see steam shooting out of everything all the way around. But by looking at the bubbles, you can definitely tell that it's a very wide area of heat distribution, which is exactly what I was looking for. So this portion of the test, I believe, is successful. Now, I'll have to look at the video again to see exactly how many minutes it took to boil, but it didn't appear as though it was that long. And let's take a quick peek and see how much fuel's left. Wow, that's a significant amount of fuel. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test my extinguisher and see how that worked out. So we'll get up in there. I still see some flames shooting out of there. Yep, it's still burning up out of there. So, let's see if there's any way I may have extinguished it. Yep, no flame. But a very hot container with a lot of bubbling green goo. I'm going to go ahead and let this cool down, and then I'll get the materials ready for my cooking experiment. Now this recipe is something I came up with a good little while ago. I was looking through the cupboards and seeing what we had, so I decided I'd invent something. And it's all centered around Jiffy corn muffin mix, and which essentially is a sweet corn muffin. So this is going to be the basis of it. We're only going to use about half of this package for the recipe. The other thing is you need an egg. I brought 2 just in case. These eggs right here came from my wife's hens, and we've been getting about 9 eggs a day now, so we're definitely in good supply of eggs. And if you can get fresh eggs, those would be the best for you. I also have some raw honey. I've got some milk. Now, look what I'm doing. I'm using my freeze-dried milk koozie as a cooler to keep my milk in. Just need a little tiny bit of milk. I got some ice in there to keep it cool. And normally, I'd fry a little bacon and then would use that grease to cook up my pancakes. But today I'm going to use a little ghee. Now, I'm going to show you how I'm going to mix this all together, and then we're going to see if this gelled fuel will cook us up a batch of Jiffy Mix pecan honey pancakes. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a Ziploc baggie as my vessel by which I'm going to do all of my mixing in. I'm sort of turning it inside out, but only about halfway. So that way, the edges sort of turn it into a little bowl. And that's what we're going to be using to add our ingredients in. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in about half of the dried corn muffin mix. And just going to eyeball it real quick. And it doesn't take much. And just one more, I believe, will be sufficient. We'll give one more. We'll give one more. There we go. And set this off to the side. And shake that up. We're going to make a little teeny tiny reservoir down on the inside there for our wet ingredients. First thing I'm going to do is add a little milk. And it normally calls for 1/3 cup. And this is my handy dandy little brand new infinity mug that's got the graduations on it. And it's not graduated in a way that where I can find 1/6 of a measurement. But I want to have this a little bit on the wet side anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and wing it and see what happens. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my egg and see if I find something here to... There we go. Oh, looky there. Looky there. My wife's eggs. These are awesome. Look, I don't know if you can see it or not. That's a double yolker. That's a double yolker. Perfect. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add the wet. And I'm not going to add the pecans yet. You're going to see what I'm going to do with those. But I am going to add just a little bit of honey. This is about a tablespoon. And this will blend in pretty well. The muffin mix, Jiffy muffin mix, is a little bit on the sweet side anyway, but I just want to have just a little bit more sweet in there because I don't like having to bring like syrup and things like that out and using those to put on top of my pancakes. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And I am going to knead all of those ingredients together. And bust up those yolks. And that's one thing you're going to notice any single time you use like farm fresh eggs is that they are so yellow. You know, whatever you put them in, it's really going to make that color a good rich color. I'm going to go ahead and knead this around for just a couple more minutes and then I'll bring you back. Okay, I have my wet mixture prepared. It's been sitting for a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and light the gel fuel again. Now, it's firmed up a little bit, but hopefully that won't affect its lighting characteristics. It took right off before. Let's see if we can do that again. There we go. Oh, burning well, burning well. Okay. That burn out. And now we're going to put our cook pan on there. Put a little bit of ghee right in here for our oil. A little extra. Oh, that's heating up pretty good and quick. I'm liking that. And we'll move it around a little bit. Get it good and coated. Put her back on here. We're going to let that get a little more active. There we go. It looks like we have a little stowaway there. I don't mind a little extra protein every once in a while, but some of you might get a little grossed out. There we go. Now I've got a little MSR folding spatula to do my flipping with. And we'll see what happens here. Oh yeah, get some nice bubblage going on there. Now the thing is, it isn't exactly level, so we're going to have to play with it a little bit, I suspect. I'm going to go ahead and pour in some of my goo. And hopefully we'll have a little sizzle. Oh, would you hear that? Did you hear that? Just a little sizzle. There we go. We're just going to go ahead and do that size right there. Let that sort of settle down there. And I have a lid from my Trangia mess tins, which is going to be my plate. Now while that's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a few pecans on there. Just a few. Probably too much, but that's okay. I'll feed that bug that just landed in there. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm seeing a lot of that heat going all the way around there. I'm liking that. There's a bit of hot oil over there. That's good. If you have a really nicely level spot for your stove, I think this would work ideal. This is doing okay. I'm going to go ahead and let that cook just a little bit. I want to make sure those edges are getting sort of firm. Yeah. It feels like it's sticking there. That's not good. That's nice and soft over here. It's going to need to go for just a minute or two, I suspect. Yeah, I like looking for the bubbles coming up along the edges, and there's going to be openings sort of going to remind you of crumpets. That's going to come up around the edges. That definitely lets you know that the edges are starting to get done. And you have to have done edges if you're going to flip them. Now, if your pancakes are too wet, well, you got to wait a little while to be able to flip them, and there's a good possibility they're going to break. That is definitely sticking. So, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, just a little bit brown, but that's okay. The first time I've ever done this. And you don't need too long on the flip. I'm going to let that set for just a few seconds, and then we'll go for pancake number 2. Okay. Right there. I'm going to flip that over there on the plate. Look at that. That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous, I'm telling you. Absolutely delicious. Yeah, make sure it's in focus. Looky there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a few more of these, and then I'm going to bring you back. Well, I'm finishing up my last pancake here, and I was able to get 4 really decent sized ones, and I can tell the heat is drifting off just a tiny little bit. Let's take a look and see how much fuel is left. It's just about, spent as far as the fuel goes. And I had about 1/4 of an inch of gel fuel in there. And I think that as far as the fuel efficiency goes, it's very good. And you don't have that unpleasant odor like you have with trioxane or hexamine. And it definitely distributed the heat well for me to be able to whip up a good old batch of my pancakes. I'm going to go ahead and take this off of here, extinguish the fire, and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to be my own guinea pig on these, but just look at those. Look at those. They're so pretty. And they look as good as they taste, I bet. Now, again, I've never done this before. I've never cooked this recipe outside before, let alone in this special rectangular Esbit cook set. I'm going to go ahead and just eat this more like a cookie than a pancake. You definitely get all of that good sweetness you get from the Jiffy sweet corn muffins, and there's a little bit of a crunchiness, a crunchy quality from the cornmeal that's in there. And I probably could have put another package of honey in there, because I can just barely taste it. It's just a hint. The pecans are absolutely phenomenal in there. Definitely complements the sweet corn muffin mix. try to get this, try to find a piece where you can see it. Look how rich of a yellow that is. And you only get that from like farm fresh eggs. Look at this. Look how bright yellow that is. And yeah, the Jiffy Mix, it's yellow corn. And you get that, but you don't get the rich quality, especially in the flavor that you get from, you know, fresh eggs. And it really makes a huge difference. And that's one of the reasons I'm able to eat this like a cookie, is because of that egg in there. It binds it together really well. Well, all in all, I think all of this was very successful. I'm going to go and stuff my face for a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back and wrap this up. You got to try this. It's phenomenal. Well, folks, when it was all said and done, I was able to make 4 pretty decent sized pancakes with half of the Jiffy Mix. So that means if you make a full package, you're looking at, you know, probably up to 6 to 8 decent sized ones. And you know, I ate those first 2, and wow, they are very filling. I'm still munching on these, but I will definitely take them home and finish them if I don't finish them by the time I leave the woods this evening. Now, when I first got this, I was a little concerned about its limitations. I no longer have those concerns. I now like this little set better than I did before. And the use of this stuff, the Sterno Green, this is absolutely hilarious. Just look at the labeling on this. Content may burn. That's hilarious. And it's, you know, it's green as far as any fuels and stuff goes. You know, it's not going to taint your food while you're cooking with them and stuff. So I think it was a pretty good deal. And my little gelled fuel stove. This worked out perfectly, and it holds just the right amount of fuel. Now, granted, I used this initially to boil the water, and before I used it to make my pancakes, I squirt just a little tiny bit in, probably not as much as I used before, but that's pretty good. It's probably at maximum 1/4 inch of fuel to cook 4 pancakes. Believe me, if I would have done sausage patties or bacon, or even, you know, a few fried eggs, one of those pancakes and, you know, something else, that's breakfast. Those things are incredibly filling and quite delicious. Like I said, give it a try. Super easy. Jiffy Mix, I think you can get it on sale sometimes for like 60 to 80 cents a package. And so I always buy it. I like it. Make traditional muffins with, but I like it best when I use it to make my pancakes. And again, for this batch, I probably would have used a little more honey. And the nice thing about it is this is going to clean up really well. If you have pancakes out when you're camping and stuff like it, it makes a pretty significant mess. One of the things you might try if you're making regular pancakes in the future while you're camping, is to go ahead and put your syrup in the mix while it's wet before you pour it in your skillet to make the pancakes. You'll still have that flavor. It's just going to be a lot easier for you to clean up afterwards. Well, folks, I am very pleased with how things turned out for the actual core video, and it's just been one of those days. And it's one of those days to where you can say, well, gosh, it can't get any worse than this. Believe me, I've learned the hard way. Don't ever say that and mean it, because yeah, it can always get worse. But right now, I'm in my zen. I'm calm. I'm relaxed. I'm in the forest. And I had Jiffy Mix pecan and honey pancakes for supper. Yeah. Sorry, folks. Got a little carried away. But I think the tests were a success. It only took probably 10 to 12 minutes to cook 4 decent-sized pancakes. Cleanup is going to be very easy. I was sort of surprised on how well the anodized aluminum did, combined with the ghee I used for my grease, and it worked great. I think it worked absolutely fantastic. Folks, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and if you would, always go on down and click like and subscribe and notifications and all that goobity-gaw, but go to my YouTube channel, the actual channel page, and click on the discussions. I've started a discussion about caching, and specifically wild camp caching for locations to where you go frequently to wild camp so that you can cache necessities, resupply, emergency items, things like that. And go ahead and read that, and please add your 2 cents. That's what that discussion section's for. That way, you can share your thoughts. I can collect those ideas. I can mull them around. I've got my thoughts, and I'll share those too. But I've found that more ideas add for better decisions. And especially with what's coming up this summer, I'm going to have a lot of new ideas that I need to turn into really good decisions so that I have fantastic wild camps, and those should equal fantastic videos. And so if you would, definitely check out the discussion section of my YouTube channel page, and let me know what you think. And I'm going to be using that frequently, and I think it's going to be a good thing, because I love the discussions, but I don't know how many of you are YouTubers, but at least on my laptop where I've been working, I think it's difficult to keep track and keep up to date on the replies to comments, and sometimes I lose those. And I found a couple ways that I can find those, but I'm not 100% certain I'm catching all of them. So I've still got a lot of learning to do with it, but I think this discussions section should probably work out pretty well for those elongated response type things, to where we go back and forth and we actually are having a discussion, but instead of having it in the comment section, we can switch it over there. Well, I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to pack up my stuff, get on home before it gets dark. Folks, I love you. I'm so grateful for you, and I very much appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.